Hey loves, welcome back to Tierra Gitana. My name is Abby and today we're going to be doing the Sacral Sexual Healing Tarot Pool video for the week of August 20th to August 27th. I never memorize the date, so I always have like my computer open with the calendar. So I hope last week was good for you guys. I feel like for me, like once the Scorpio moon hit, and I did the Yoni spell, which I put it's in my list of videos if you want to still see that and do that work. I felt a lot better because earlier in the week there was some sexual frustration. I kept picking it up, not just on me but on other people, and then towards once the Scorpio moon hits and I did that spell work, I felt a lot better. And then this past weekend was pretty amazing for me, so as far as healing goes. So I was in a really good place this week. I don't know about everybody else. When I kind of came back to my you know, my apartment, my own, and I did a reading, I was kind of weirded out to find out that someone was like tried to do some spell work on me, which wait, let me put that down, which I thought was really like, what? I was really surprised because the whole entire weekend I was away, and I was very protected during this weekend. I was very much doing a lot of spiritual work as well, but I was very protected, and I was very I was just away, and like the wall, energetically the wall was there. So when I came back and I did that reading, and it was just like, you know, it was just like a general like, hey, anything I should be aware of, you know, type of reading. And then the whole thing was just like magic, occult, and like I wasn't using the Rider Waite for that one. I was doing the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot, and everything was coming up as like somebody else, because it wasn't my energy. My energy didn't come up on it. It was just like somebody else was trying to do spell work on me. And I think that's cute in a way. Like that's cute, especially for what they're trying to do. It's, I guess it's cute. I am flattered. Did you ever take a moment to be flattered that somebody else put a spell on you? Except for the fact that it didn't work. Well, it's yet to be seen if it worked or not. Personally, I was very much protected, so I was not thinking about anything other than what I was thinking about during this weekend. It was a very spiritual weekend for me, so I was very much protected. I was very much in like a sacred space. So I wasn't thinking about anybody else. So when I came back to it, I was just kind of like really weirdly surprised. I was just like, okay, that's cute, I guess. So coming out of that spiritual weekend for me, and then going into this week is interesting, especially because we're starting off this week with the moon in Sagittarius. Where the moon's going to be in Capricorn, in Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius this week. And so we are going to be talking about those energies because they're going to come up anyway. And I've already been beating you guys with the stick of Capricorn for a while now, because there's a lot of lessons that you can learn from Capricorn energy, Capricorn archetype, and Capricorn people. I am a Capricorn myself. So there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from that energy, but that is the cardinal force for this week. So we need to understand that that's kind of one of the things that are going to be pushing us this week. Sagittarius is definitely going to have us be in our minds, and really in that kind of Jupiterian expansive space where we're just trying to work things out in our heads. Once it goes into Aquarius, it's gonna kind of be an extension of that, I feel like, and it's also gonna bring back that space that we were in before, when we had the lunar eclipse in Aquarius. It's going to kind of bring us back into reflection during this time. So there's a lot of mental activity this week. There's a lot of kind of trying to work out where we're going to be at this week. I'm going to show you guys the cards after I finish shuffling. Trying to work out where we're kind of putting all of our putting all our fruit in one basket. Like, how are we doing that for this week? Bottom of the deck is Strength and the Knave of Pentacles. I'm actually really glad this came out, because this is the very much clear definition of what's going on this week, because the sun is also moving out of Leo season, which is, Strength is a card of Leo, and moving into Virgo this week. So Knave of Pentacles I always see as Virgo. It's very much like a, not king, not knight, but it's because of its mutable nature. So that's something that's also happening this week that's pretty major, which is going to that change to the earth sign. But it's also, remember that Virgo is earth air. So it's a very much mercurial energy. It's just grounded air energy, and so there is a lot of mental activity happening this week. So let's look at the cards. The first two cards are, and this is funny because if I'm not mistaken, this was the first card in the last reading as well, is the King of Swords and the Eight of Pentacles. So we're starting off the week really much working through our thoughts. This is also, by the way, the card of Aquarius in this deck specifically. But we're starting off this week really working through our thoughts, really working through our what we want to do. It's good because we're starting off the week really strong with this type of energy. And some of us might be feeling the Virgo energy a little bit early, as I can see from the spread, because it's not a lot of fire, even though Sagittarius, the moon is in Sagittarius right now and the sun is still in Leo. But some of us might be feeling that shift, that Virgo shift, a little bit early. And so if you are feeling that shift a little bit early, that's totally fine. The only thing that we also need to remember, because during the weekend Mercury went direct, with this kind of Eight of Pentacles energy, we kind of feel like, oh, we could just get back to work and do all the things and keep moving and stuff. However, this is a Chariot in reverse. However, Mercury has gone direct, yes, but it's still in its post-shadow phase. It's going to be in its post-shadow phase until, I want to say 1 or 2 days, the beginning of September. So don't get crazy. It's kind of like Mercury was sleeping and now he's getting up. And when you get up, he doesn't just go start running. He has to stretch a little bit, you know, like just let him stretch, let him get his bearings together before you start signing off on stuff and getting wild and crazy. You can see movement. Just be careful of, just go slow with it. Don't jump on stuff too quickly. It's not super jumpy time. Still do a lot of contemplation on the work that you have to do, how you're gonna move before you do this whole big push. This week is not, do not do the push yet. This is not, do not do the push. This is not the push. Don't do the chariot, like, let's go, let's get on this chariot, let's ride. Not yet. It's not the time. We're still working out a lot of the mental of it. We're still like going through the lessons of Mercury retrograde, as far as what it gave us of all these retrogrades and how they've been affecting us, of the healing that has taken place, how we've blended it all together, how we're growing, all of these things. Dwell on it a little bit longer and see how you want to move from it, see what decisions you want to make, but don't get lost in the sauce. Don't get lost in the sauce. Don't get lost in the sauce so much that you want to cook something with that sauce already. Don't do that. It's not time yet. The next two cards, are the Eight of Swords and the Two of Swords. So there are some of us who are going to feel very restricted emotionally, because it's the King of Cups. This is also the card of Scorpio. But there's some of us that are going to feel very restricted on an emotional level. We're going to feel like we still can't move yet, even though Mercury retrograde has gone direct. But again, post shadow phase, don't run into it yet. There is a lot of restrictions, there's a lot of blockage, but there is a need to do this. You need to, again, there's a lot of mental activity happening this week. We cannot bum rush into this, into action yet. We still need to work, and work sometimes requires us to continue to process everything. Be gentle on yourself, be careful, be careful with the quality of your thoughts, be aware of your thoughts. This week is a very good week to be aware of your thoughts, because once we start moving forward, it's gonna change a lot of the things. So in relation to sacral, how this affects our sacral space, if you have been doing a lot of work in this space and you have been healing a lot of trauma in this space, just because you have healed a lot of trauma in this space does not mean that you need to put your sacral chakra on blast now and just go off into the world. You might need to just take a breather, slow down, come back to yourself. Really just really stay in the feeling of how good it feels to have it flowing a little bit better. Bask in your healing. Don't let yourself get, let it get blocked again with your mind. Do this, like, if you need to, like, kind of stay away from people and, like, kind of just be like, I'm just feeling myself right now. I'm just really, like, if you want to take the last few days of Leo season to feel yourself, that's totally fine with me, by the way. Very Leo thing to do. Because once we go into Virgo, it's like about all of these things and analyzing and like serving others and how we're connecting with others. So if you want to take the last couple of days of Leo season to be a little selfish, that is totally fine. Selfishness is not a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. It's an understanding of your need to nurture yourself. There's some people that do it better than others. Some people will move from their shadow self, some people won't. But it's important for us to take that time for ourselves. We have been doing a lot of work for these past couple of months, and we need to continue to feel good. Really, because that's what Leo season was about, and I said it. We need to do a lot of feel-good things. And this week is really like, I'm still feeling it. I'm just gonna sit with myself. I'm just gonna sit with myself. That includes both emotionally and mentally. Emotionally and mentally. We need to feel both things. The last two cards are the Nine of Swords and the Seven of Pentacles. And by the end of the week, we might start feeling like we need to move on. We need to move on something. We need to kind of... We're just kind of waiting for something good to happen so we could kind of reuse this energy that we've kind of transmuted into something else. And there is a little bit of an impatience. There is. I wouldn't be surprised of how many pentacles start coming out once we switch over. Well, Swords and Pentacles. Once we switch over into Virgo season, because Virgos love, like, Virgo energy loves to have things in order. To me, they're always like the second mom sign of the zodiac. Cancer being the first, and then Virgo being the second. They're very parental. They're very, like, wanting things in order. They're very parental in that way. And so it's important for us to just kind of have a little bit of patience and reground ourselves. And that's kind of like, this is a little bit of what Virgo does in many ways, because they're still an air sign. They still have that ability to think really quickly, but ground their ideas and those thoughts into the ground and kind of readdress everything. The first card that came out from the other deck was the Fool, which is good. New beginning. Again, we're going into a new season this week. But I feel like we're going to be feeling the shift a little bit. Some people might be feeling it early. Some people will start feeling the shift towards the end of the week. And I say this because the middle of the week, once the shift happens, we're also going to be in, the moon's going to be in Capricorn at the time that the shift happens as well. So there will be a lot of earth there. There'll be a lot of earth. There'll be a lot of like working stuff out. And Capricorn energy will always be like, hey, can we try to figure out how we're gonna move? And it's just not gonna be kind of like a time. It's just like a good time to plan how we're gonna move, but not necessarily move on it yet. That's why we got the Chariot in reverse. So this, if this has to do with work or a relationship, you just need to take your time. You just need to take your time. This is not the week to go full-blown romantic and go do some crazy stuff. It's not. The next card that came out was the World. So the Fool and the World tell me that we were really going through a period of a journey that has now come to a close. And that is actually very, very beautiful, because it really solidifies all the work that we've been doing. And I think it's important to remind ourselves that we've been healing and we've been doing this work for a while now. And ultimately it's so we could clear up our sacral space, so we can start manifesting from our sacral space and using it properly, so that we can grow, be better, and find ways for us to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, because it's so hard for us to kind of be ourselves in the system. The system almost pretty much tells you, you can't be yourself. You can't do this to yourself. You can't there's certain things, like there's certain things of your time that I need from you. There's certain things, it's always like you need to put the system before you. And you also need to, you need to remind yourself that you need to feed yourself before you need to give anybody else your energy. Because if you do not feed yourself, if you do not take care of yourself, you will not be able to properly care for anything else, because you will be out of balance. So your energy will not be out of balance. You will be frustrated. You won't do the job properly either. You just won't be able to contribute anything in a positive way. And so it's really a time to really reflect on the lessons that we've learned. So we don't have to kind of relearn them. That's pretty much it. That's another thing that kind of Capricorn energy will bring you this week. Capricorns don't like learning the same lesson twice. Why? Because our ruling planet is Saturn, the Lord of Karma. We do not like Saturn teaching us the same lesson twice. We do not. This is not something that we're out here like trying to be like, yes, we love it. We do not like to do this. This is not something, if we ever have to learn a lesson twice, this is actually a very annoying time, because we realize we're like, yeah, but this happened before. We shouldn't have done, like, we're very conscious of it. Now, the power that Saturn gives Capricorn is the value of time. We're able to carry on the energy of Saturn in a archetypal form and embodying it. And so it bothers us when time gets used incorrectly. And so when lessons like this comes along, and we also understand the ending. We understand when it's a beginning, and we also understand the ending of it. And so when lessons come along, we're like, okay, that was a lesson. This was long-term, this wasn't. It's very visible at points of it. There's times where we're just like, okay, this is something that I had to go through. This is something, okay. All right, so next time, what am I going to do? Are you going to do the same thing? Are you going to address it the same way? There's levels to it. And it's just an awareness. It's a self-awareness. Some signs do this better than others, but the earth signs are really good at just pulling back and just saying, wait, what was that? because we're like seeds that are planted in the ground. So we need to know what we're growing. We need to know how we're growing, where we planted that seed, and if it grew at all, why it didn't grow, why did we nurture that, like what, that's what we do. We do this the best out of any other elemental astrological sign, because that is what we do. And so we seek value in when we grow. We seek value in what we put our time into. And so if something does not grow properly, we don't try to redo that again, unless you just have some other placements in your chart. Then obviously that will kind of dilute the earth energy a little bit. And that always happens. You always have to look at your chart energy and understand how to work with it. But it's important to take time to just be like, okay, this was a lesson. This was Saturn. The world is always Saturn, by the way. So it's a completion, but it's Saturn. This is Saturn, like, hey, you know, you were in this journey and now it's come to a close. And what have you learned from it? So let's see what we've learned from it. The next two cards are the Eight of Wands and the High Priestess in reverse. They're both in reverse. So this tells me a lot of things. Eight of Wands deals with, it could deal with a couple of different things, because the Eight of Wands talks about movement, swift movements. This can also be messages. Can also be acting on something very swiftly, but it speaks on something incoming. When it's in reverse, because we're looking back, this is why a lot of these cards are going to be in reverse. We're looking back. There's something that we acted on a little bit too quickly without seeking guidance or contemplating or working with our ancestors or looking at history, looking at the history of the thing. Because the High Priestess focuses on knowledge that has been passed down. There's a right way to do things with the High Priestess. There's a, okay, I already know how to make this meal. I already know how to do the spell. I already know how to manifest this. I already know what this book says. So that way I don't have to pretend or not know what the message is. I can clearly see it. And so when you have this kind of combination, there is something that we acted on that we did not know very well. And I mean, such is life. You're not always gonna know what the lesson is. You're not gonna always know what the purpose of a person is in your life. You're not always gonna know what the purpose of the job is in your life. How that, because literally lessons come in ridiculous ways. You can be in a job and you could literally be miserable, and you kind of want, there's a goal that you want, and maybe you want it, or all this stuff, and then the whole entire purpose of that whole entire situation was just for you to meet that one person that got hired that said this crazy revolutionary thing to you, and then your life changed after that. It's hilarious how you would get put in situations where you did not know better, but you acted on it on other kind of reason, like for another reason. Like you were there for systematic reasons. I'm gonna call it systematic reasons, because a lot of the time when we're working with the physical realm, because they have built a system in this way, we are trying to manifest things on their level, which is really annoying actually. And so when you're working through the physical realm and then spirit just manifest something else, the lesson becomes something else. There's something spiritually that you needed to heal. There's something emotionally, mentally, energetically that you needed to heal that had nothing to do with the system. And then you get put in the position where you're in the physical realm, in the systematicness of it, and somebody comes in and boom, that either hit you emotionally, that either brought up a trauma, that either brought, like, it will trigger something where you're like, oh, and then you're kind of reminded of that pain. And every time you get reminded of pain is because you need to heal that pain. That space needs attention. The reason why we feel, if we get cut, the reason why we feel pain is because our awareness needs to be on that cut. What happened? We need to like address it. We need to make sure it's covered so it doesn't get infected. There's levels to it. It's not for things for us to ignore. There's things that is just not meant to be ignored. So when we feel a reaction, we need to address why that reaction was felt in the first place. Why is it important for us to address something with pain. And it happens automatically. It's not something that you choose to do. That's the other thing. Because if we could all choose to be happy, then we will all choose to be happy. However, there are times where there's stuff in your subconscious, there's stuff blocking your chakras, where you'll have to be like, oh, and it'll just hit you, and it'll be from a lot of the time it's from a lack of knowledge, and a lack of understanding, a lack of connection, a lack of working, whether it be your ancestors, your spirit guides, your elders. It could be many things. Sometimes we make mistakes because we don't look at history. We don't look at what has happened before, what has happened to our parents or older sisters. And it's important to pull back and see ourselves before we do this. Sometimes they're better at this than others. The air signs are not known for this kind of behavior, but it's important to do it either way. It's important for us to try to pause and try to be like, whoa, why did I feel that? This is something that as a Gemini moon I do a lot, because I analyze everything. Everything in my life gets analyzed very deeply. So I do this a lot. If I'm walking down the street and I don't know, I walked by someone and I picked up like a certain vibe or an energy, and I'll just turn around and be like, what was that? Like, I'll just have to, there's some times where I have to address what it was. There's sometimes where I'll be having a conversation with someone and they'll say something where I kind of either didn't expect it, or there was something that was said that was just like, ooh, and it just kind of jump started me into something else, into an area, and the emotional reaction that comes from that in the area as well, because your chakras they will kind of light up when they're getting triggered as well. So the emotion that comes from that area will tell you like, hey, I need healing here, like you need to focus on me, and that's something that we really needed to do. The other parts of this lesson was, we have the 6 of Pentacles and the 7 of Pentacles. This is not in reverse. And this is very interesting because the 6 of Pentacles is always, can mean many things, but it's always a little bit, to me, this kind of combination is really waiting for someone to be fair with you, and waiting for someone to kind of put your best interest and your best, put you in front, and put your emotional state or what you would want from them or the situation or the job or whatever, put you in the forefront, in the like, hey, you know, I'm thinking about them, they should get it, or I really want to be fair to this person, or like the way it gets manifested is in a very like, I want someone to be fair with me. I want this lesson to be, I'm gonna make a move on it, but I really want this lesson to be something that that will be fair, that will treat me right, that will understand my value, that will understand, because these are pentacles, that will understand my value, that will understand what I'm bringing to the table. But the problem is that when you give too much power to others, the 6 of Pentacles, when you give too much power to others, where you're allowing them to have the option of whether or not they get to be fair with you, you have this situation, which is the 10 of Cups in reverse. You can't always give your power away. The system has trained us to do that, but this is not something that it's okay to do, and we should not be doing at all. It's important for us to be open, be fair, but don't give your power away so quickly, or at all. I mean, there's some times where you will want to, depending on the person, depending on what they're into, but you don't have to always give your power away. Sometimes you need to have the upper hands. You need to have yourself in mind first, and it's hard when you get put in a situation of like, you know, I love them more than I love myself and all this stuff. Like, people love to say kind of these things, but you really have to love yourself though, because when you get lost in the sauce, you forget that other people, sometimes you will never understand someone as deep as they are, as deep as their ocean are. And some people will be very simple and they'll be very straightforward with who they are. But you need to understand yourself that deep. You need to understand your ocean that deep. Because when you give too much power to something, to the system, to whatever it is, you end up getting disappointed because your expectation was for it to be fair. The system is not fair. And so when we get put in the situation that we should have known better about, we just end up being hurt from it, from not having the 10 of Cups now. And that doesn't feel good. The outcome for this week is the King of Cups and the Magician. I'm not really surprised because after Sagittarius, when I do this reading again, the moon should be about to be or going into Pisces. Interesting that it's coming up as a king though. We'll see how that's gonna play out next week. But oh right, the moon. That's so funny. I totally forgot about this. So we're gonna have I'm dying. I'm so dying. If I'm not mistaken, we're gonna have a full moon in Pisces. That's coming up. I'm so mad that I forgot. It should be on Monday, Sunday, Monday. So this weekend, and it's gonna be very interesting as far as spell work goes, and it's gonna be a good time to manifest some stuff actually for the Pisces moon, which is probably why this combo came out. I'm just like laughing because I totally forgot. But this is great. This is a really great way to end this week because Pisces is one of the best signs to manifest from as far as manifesting goes. Pisces is one of the best signs for it when they have it together, because they can get lost in the in the swimming and they can get lost a little bit, but they're really good at manifesting opportunities. That's one of the gifts from Neptune, and it's going to be a very powerful time for some spell work, some resetting intentions. This is also great because that means next week we're starting the game with Aries as well. Like after Pisces, it's going to go into Aries, and we know that restarts the Aries is like the pretty much this energy. But this combo kind of brings us to a close and brings us into our power. This is also Mercury, but it brings us back into our power in order for us to kind of reset and kind of turn this High Priestess card around, because now we know better. Now we know better. The bottom of the deck for this, because I forgot to say it, was the Page of Swords and the Chariot. So kind of being able to move on towards the end of the week. So let me pull some oracle cards. Oh, I always forget to tell you which cards I'm using. I'm using the Monara deck, and I'm also using the Tarot of Sexual Magic and the Zodiac Oracle. So those are the cards that I'm using. So the first card, I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, we talked about this. First card out is Air. I'm just not surprised. We talked about this. We're going into Virgo. Venus. We're going into Virgo. We also have Libra in Venus right now as well. So we are coming off a little bit more strong. And a little bit more concentrated on the seeds that we plant. Next is Fire. I'm not surprised about this. We're in the Sagittarius moon right now, but we are going to go into Aries next week as well. So that's we're going to be feeling that. And the last two is Mercury and Aquarius, which I'm also not surprised about because we talked about it. With the Aquarius moon, definitely take time to reflect. Bottom of the deck is the moon and Saturn. Not surprised. Definitely take time to reflect on what you learned from Mercury retrograde, what you learned from the eclipses that we were in this whole entire time, all of the eclipses. What have you learned from them? What is a lesson? How are you gonna go from how we're starting this week to this kind of bold, emotional, open manifestation when we get to this Pisces moon. That's really going to be the fun part for the week, because we're getting back to, okay, what do we want to manifest? Because this is this. What do we want to manifest? What is it that we want to openly come for, like, be like, okay, you know what, I know better now. This was a lesson that I learned. This is how I want to move forward now. This is how I want to take what I learned and apply it now. So take some time, reflect this week. There's a lot of like just detachment. Something that I'm not surprised about, the detachment that's happening. Moon is going to be in Aquarius. Tap into that Aquarius energy. Don't be afraid to detach. Don't be afraid to be with yourself. Really take time to just pull it back. Just pull it back. Don't worry about anything else. Just pull it back. Work yourself out. And replant those seeds. Figure out how you're gonna replant those seeds. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys next week. And there's gonna be more videos coming up during this week as well. But yes, all of my links and stuff will be down below. If you want to book a reading with me, it can be on my website as well, so that's going to be in the link down below. And I will see you guys next week.